They say everything's bigger in Texas, and that includes the ghost stories. Welcome back to my channel, where we dive into the creepiest, most haunted places across the country. If you've been keeping up with my Haunted State series, you already know we've covered some seriously spooky locations, but Texas? Oh, Texas is on a whole different level. I had to pack extra bags for this one because there are just too many haunted places to fit in one video. Now don't get me wrong, I love a good ghost hunt, but Texas really made me work for this one. From abandoned asylums and eerie hotels to ghost towns that still have, just not the living kind, this state has no shortage of supernatural activity. Since there's so much to cover, I had no choice but to break this up into parts because, let's face it, if I tried to cram every haunted location into one video, we'd be here for hours. And as much as I love creeping myself out, I also need to sleep at some point. Not that I'll be getting much of that after digging into these stories. If you're new here, make sure to check out my other videos on haunted locations across different states. Trust me, Texas isn't the only place where ghosts like to hang out. But if you're a returning viewer, you already know what to do. Grab your ghost hunting gear, turn off the lights, if you dare, and get ready for a deep dive into Texas's most haunted places. So, get ready because we're about to take a scary road trip through the Lone Star State. First stop? A place so haunted that even the ghosts are probably looking over their shoulders. Let's get into it. Welcome to Screamville. First up on our Texas ghost hunt is a place etched in the history books, the Alamo. Yeah, that Alamo. Turns out, when a place witnesses as much history, some of it tends to linger. And by linger, I mean full-on ghost mode. We're talking about soldiers who fell in battle, their souls forever tied to the site of their final stand. Imagine walking those hallowed grounds, feeling the weight of their sacrifice, and then BAM! You see a flicker of movement in the corner of your eye. Is it just the wind, or is it something more? Before we get into the ghost story, let's lay a little foundation in case you didn't pay attention in history class. It's 1836, and Texas is trying to break up with Mexico. Think of it like a messy relationship. Texas wants freedom, and Mexico's like, not on my watch. Enter General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna, Mexico's president/dictator, who is not about to let Texas go without a fight. Meanwhile, a ragtag group of Texans, Tejanos, and American volunteers, including famous names like Davy Crockett, Jim Bowie, and William B. Travis, have holed up in the Alamo, an old Spanish mission-turned fort in San Antonio. Picture a historic Airbnb, but with really bad security. Santa Anna arrives in February 1836 with about 1,800 troops. The Texans? They've got roughly 200 dudes, some rifles, and a whole lot of misplaced confidence. Travis famously draws a line in the sand and says, "If you want to stay and fight, cross this line." Almost everyone steps over, except one guy who basically says, "I left my stove on," and takes off. For 13 days, the Texans hold off the Mexican army, firing their rifles, patching up their walls, and hoping for reinforcements that never come. Crockett's out there fighting with his bear wrestling skills, and Bowie, who's sick in bed, is still managing to fight like a boss. On March 6, 1836, Santa Anna gets tired of waiting and orders an all-out attack. The Mexican army storms the Alamo in the early morning, and despite the Texans fighting like absolute maniacs, they're vastly outnumbered. The battle lasts about 90 minutes, and every defender is killed, except for a few women, children, and a slave who are spared to tell the tale. Santa Anna thinks this is a huge win. Texans, however, have a different reaction. Rage mode activated. A month later, General Sam Houston leads a surprise attack at the Battle of San Jacinto, where his troops yell, "Remember the Alamo!" like it's the catchphrase of the year. In 18 minutes, Houston's army absolutely wrecks the Mexican forces, captures Santa Anna, and forces him to sign Texas's independence. It didn't take long for the Alamo's ghostly residents to clock in for their eternal shift. Just days after the infamous battle, General Santa Anna, in a fit of dictator-level pettiness, decided that the mission needed to be torched. The last thing he wanted was for those rebellious Texians to turn it into some kind of freedom shrine. So he ordered General Andrade to take some men and burn the place down. Simple, right? Well, not so much. The cavalrymen rode to the Alamo, probably whistling a tune, ready to follow orders. But when they got there, they made a U-turn faster than a horse in a tornado and hightailed it back to camp. Andrade, who hadn't ordered a group field trip, was understandably annoyed. "What part of burn it down was unclear?" he asked. One soldier, pale as a ghost, which is ironic given what he'd seen, explained that 6 fiery sword-wielding phantoms had blocked the entrance, looking less like friendly church guardians and more like something straight out of a fever dream. Some believed these were the fallen Alamo defenders still keeping watch. Others swore they were old Franciscan monks, having the ultimate "not on my watch" moment. Andrade, being the kind of guy who scoffs in the face of spectral warriors, decided he'd check it out himself. He took a few men and marched over, probably muttering about how he had to do everything himself. But instead of sword-swinging ghosts, he got a new nightmare: a towering spirit standing atop the barracks, holding flaming balls of fire like a supernatural juggling act. That was it. Andrade gave up on the whole burn-it-down plan and led his men out of San Antonio so fast they left dust trails. Santa Ana never tried again, and within a decade the Alamo sat abandoned, slowly crumbling. Though its ghosts, they weren't going anywhere. By 1846, Texas had been annexed into the U.S., and the Alamo got a new gig as an army complex. Then in 1871, someone had the bright idea to demolish part of it. But just as the wrecking crew made plans, people at the nearby Menger Hotel started reporting some, unusual activity. Ghostly soldiers were seen patrolling the grounds, some fading into walls like they'd just glitched out of reality. Others stood at attention all night, daring anyone to lay a finger on their beloved site. The decision to tear down the Alamo? Canceled. Instead, they turned it into a police station and jail, because what could go wrong with locking up criminals in one of the most haunted places in Texas? By the 1890s, the local newspaper was practically running a paranormal section. Guards reported ghostly figures marching along the rooftop, shadowy figures slinking through hallways, and moaning sounds that definitely weren't coming from the prisoners. The hauntings got so intense that night shifts became a no-go. Tough-as-nails policemen outright refused to work there after dark. Eventually, they gave up and moved the prison elsewhere, proving once and for all that even the most hardened lawmen drew the line at ghostly co-workers. Long before it became the setting for one of history's most famous last stands, the site had another grim role. It was a cemetery. From 1724 to 1793, around 1,000 people were buried there. Then the 1836 battle added hundreds more souls to the mix. Construction crews working in Alamo Plaza have been known to dig up skulls and bones. You don't need to be a ghost hunter to see where this is going. Among the famous spectral residents are, this blonde-haired ghost kid loves to peek out of an upstairs window, now part of the Alamo's gift shop. Because even in the afterlife, kids love window shopping. Legend says he was evacuated before the battle, but returns looking for his lost parents. February is his busy season, so if you visit then, don't be surprised if you get an unexpected audience while browsing souvenir shot glasses. Outside the Alamo, a ghostly Mexican soldier is often spotted pacing, hands behind his back, head shaking like he just got bad news. Many believe he's General Castrillon, who tried to spare surrendering Texians, only for Santa Ana to hack them to death anyway. If that's him, no wonder he's still upset. Early morning visitors have seen a man and child standing atop the Alamo, until the man suddenly grabs the boy and jumps off. It's a ghostly replay of an actual event from the battle's final moments. Talk about a history lesson with special effects. Another such figure is Carlos Espalier, a young defender who perished during the 1836 battle. Born in 1819, Espalier was of Mexican descent and joined the Texian forces in their fight for independence. At just 17, he fought valiantly alongside renowned figures like James Bowie and Davy Crockett. While specific accounts of Carlos Espalier's ghost haunting the Alamo are scarce, the site is renowned for various paranormal activities. James "Jim" Bowie, a legendary frontiersman and defender of the Alamo, is among the many figures associated with the site's haunted history. While specific accounts of Bowie's ghost haunting the Alamo are also scarce, the mission's reputation for paranormal activity is well documented. Visitors and staff have reported various unexplained phenomena at the Alamo, including sightings of spectral figures, mysterious noises, and sudden cold spots. These experiences have led many to believe that the spirits of those who perished during the 1836 battle, including Bowie, continue to linger within the mission's walls. Bowie's enduring legacy as a hero of the Texas Revolution, coupled with the Alamo's tragic history, contributes to the belief that his spirit may still be present at the site. However, concrete evidence of Bowie's ghost, specifically haunting the Alamo, remains elusive, leaving the tales within the realm of legend and personal experience. Davy Crockett, renowned as the king of the wild frontier, met his end during the 1836 Battle of the Alamo, a pivotal event in the Texas Revolution. Over the years, numerous accounts have emerged suggesting that his spirit lingers at this historic site. From disembodied whispers to phantom footsteps, the Alamo remains a hotspot for supernatural activity. Visitors report overwhelming sadness inside the main chapel, and some have even burst into tears for no apparent reason. But if there's one thing these spirits seem determined to do, it's ensuring that no one ever forgets the Alamo, even if they have to haunt you into remembering. Located within the dense foliage of Texas's Big Thicket lies Bragg Road, an unassuming dirt path stretching approximately 8 miles between the ghost town of Bragg Station and Saratoga. Originally carved out in 1902 as a railway line by the Gulf, Colorado and Santa Fe Railway, it facilitated the booming timber and oil industries of the time, transporting logs, oil, and the occasional bewildered armadillo to markets beyond the thicket. As the timber dwindled and oil wells dried up, the railroad's significance waned. By 1934, the tracks were dismantled, leaving behind a straight and narrow dirt road that locals would later dub Ghost Road. This transformation from bustling railway to eerie byway set the stage for the legends that would soon envelop Bragg Road in mystery. The most renowned of these tales is that of the Saratoga Light, a mysterious orb that appears without warning, floating and bobbing along the road at night. Descriptions of the light vary, with witnesses reporting colors ranging from bluish-white to green or yellow. Some say it's the size of a pumpkin, while others claim it's more akin to a floating lantern. One popular legend attributes the light to a headless railroad worker who met a grim fate during the railway's operational days. According to the tale, this unfortunate soul was decapitated in a train accident and now roams the road with a lantern, eternally searching for his missing head. It's said that if you encounter the light and listen closely, you might hear the faint whisper of, "Has anyone seen my hat?" Skeptics, however, offer more grounded explanations. Some suggest the light is merely the result of distant car headlights filtering through the trees, creating an optical illusion that spooks late-night travelers. Others propose it's the manifestation of swamp gas, a natural phenomenon where decaying organic matter produces phosphorescent light. But let's be honest, blaming it on swamp gas sounds like something straight out of a Scooby-Doo episode. Over the years, Bragg Road has become a hotspot for thrill seekers, paranormal enthusiasts, and those who simply enjoy a good ghost story. Visitors often embark on nighttime drives, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive light. Some leave convinced they've encountered the supernatural, while others depart with nothing more than mosquito bites and a heightened appreciation for well-lit highways. Local businesses have embraced the road's haunted reputation, with nearby establishments offering Saratoga light tours and themed merchandise. It's not uncommon to find t-shirts proclaiming, "I survived Bragg Road," or coffee mugs adorned with glowing orbs. After all, nothing says I had a spooky time like sipping your morning brew from a haunted mug. Whether you're a firm believer in the paranormal or a staunch skeptic, there's no denying that Bragg Road's rich history and the enduring legend of the Saratoga Light add a touch of mystique to this secluded Texas trail. So if you ever find yourself in the Big Thicket after dark, consider taking a drive down Bragg Road. Who knows? You might just encounter a floating light, or at the very least, a good story to tell. If you're looking for the ultimate haunted house experience in Texas, look no further than the Grove, a place so notoriously spooky that even the ghosts are scared of each other. This eerie abode has a long history of hauntings, with ghost stories dating back to its earliest known resident, Miss Louise Young. She lived there from the early 1900s until the 1980s, casually mentioning to her friends that haints, Southern for ghosts with an attitude, shared the house with her. At first, these spectral roommates were just your standard creepy-crawly spirits, harmless and good for a few fun ghost stories. But as the years passed, things got darker. Louise became genuinely terrified, so much so that she installed a security light in the garden after repeatedly spotting shadowy figures outside. The problem? They had a nasty habit of disappearing the moment she turned on the lights. Classic ghost move. As she got older, Louise started calling the police about intruders inside her house. Officers would show up, check every room, and find absolutely nothing. Eventually, she abandoned most of the house, choosing to live in just a few rooms while the rest of the place slowly crumbled around her. And she wasn't the only one dealing with the Grove's ghostly antics. When the Grove family owned the property, Mrs. Grove once brought a Bible to bed for a little extra protection. She must have dozed off mid-prayer because she woke up to find the entire bedroom swallowed in a black mass. Not exactly the cozy bedtime experience she had in mind. Oh, and there were also disembodied voices and phantom footsteps because why not? The ghosts at the Grove are a full sensory experience too. Visitors have reported sudden bursts of perfume wafting through the air. Sounds pleasant, right? Not so fast. Others have encountered a less delightful scent, best described as someone who hasn't bathed since the 1800s. And then there was Patrick Hopkins, one of the many former owners. Just as he was about to open the house as a restaurant, he witnessed a lady in white gracefully strolling into the powder room. Except she never came out. When he checked, the room was empty. Meanwhile, one of his waitresses had an even weirder encounter. A black and white dog attacked her as she left the kitchen, but when she ran back to get help, the dog was nowhere to be found. It must have been a ghost dog, which is somehow even more terrifying than a regular one. Then there are the mysterious wet footprints that have appeared in the hallway, despite there being no rain, no leaks, and no logical reason for them to be there. Water droplets have also shown up on the staircase and a particular mirror in the house, despite the air being completely dry. Ghosts leaving behind condensation? That's a new one. The Grove, also known as the Stille Young House, was built in 1861 and is now listed on the National Register of Historic Places. This Texas landmark sits on land originally granted to Lucy and Daniel Alley, co-founders of Jefferson. Over the years, it has earned the reputation of being the most haunted house in Texas. Judging by the sheer number of spine-chilling encounters, it seems the ghosts of the Grove have no plans of leaving anytime soon. So if you're ever in Jefferson and want to test your bravery, step inside. Just don't be surprised if something or someone unseen steps back. Old Alton Bridge, more commonly known as Goatman's Bridge, is a historic iron truss bridge that links the Texas cities of Denton and Copper Canyon. Built in 1884 by the King Iron Bridge Manufacturing Company, the bridge was originally constructed to accommodate horse-drawn carriages before later serving automobiles. Spanning Hickory Creek, the bridge was an important crossing point in an area once frequently used for cattle drives. It takes its name from the now abandoned town of Alton, which briefly served as the seat of Denton County from 1850 to 1856. However, the bridge is far better known for its chilling legend. Locally, it is said to be haunted by a terrifying half-man, half-goat figure known as the Goatman. The origins of this legend trace back to a black goat farmer named Oscar Washburn, who was known for his honesty and hard work. Over time, Washburn gained a strong reputation in the community and was affectionately called the Goatman due to his trade. To attract more business, he hung a sign on the bridge reading, "This way to the Goatman." Unfortunately, his success drew the ire of local Klansmen who in August 1938 sought to put an end to his prosperity. One night, they kidnapped Washburn from his home, dragged him to the bridge, and secured a noose around his neck before throwing him over the side. But when they looked down to confirm his death, they found the noose empty. In a frenzied panic, the Klansmen rushed back to his home and brutally murdered his wife and children. To this day, many locals claim that Goatman's spirit lingers at the bridge, seeking vengeance on those who cross it. According to legend, if you drive across at night with your headlights off, just as the Klansmen did, you may find yourself face to face with the Goatman. Numerous reports describe ghostly figures, eerie glowing lights in the surrounding woods, and unexplained physical sensations such as being touched, grabbed, or even pelted with rocks. Whether fact or folklore, Goatman's Bridge remains one of Texas's most infamous haunted sites, drawing in thrill seekers and paranormal investigators alike. For over 70 years, prisoners met their fate on the gallows at the old Gonzales, Texas jail. Many visitors have reported strange and eerie experiences over the years, solidifying its reputation as one of the most haunted places in Texas. A visit to the Gonzales County Jail Museum offers a glimpse into the lives of former inmates and the grim reality of those sentenced to hang. The ceilings throughout the jail are made of corrugated steel and concrete. On the lower floor, Display cases showcase confiscated prisoner belongings, as well as historical information about sheriffs, deputies, and other law enforcement officials who served through the years. At the end of the hall lies the dungeon, where the only light and air entered through small holes above the door. Nearby is the jailer's bedroom and a cell designated for women and those deemed lunatics. The second and third floors feature a large two-story room known as the runaround, which housed lower-risk prisoners. The death cells located at the front of this room have doors made from 2-inch iron strips, forged and fused before the invention of welding. Each wing contains 2-story metal cells, rooms within a room, secured with riveted iron doors. The gallows were last used in 1921 and removed in the 1950s. They originally stood in the runaround next to the third-floor walkway, and today an exact reproduction stands in their place. Large cell block doors include small, barred openings that allowed jailers to observe inmates, while inside the room, levers controlled the cell door latches. Built in 1885, the jail remained operational until its closure in 1975. Now a museum, it preserves its chilling history with original cells, sheriff's and jailers' quarters, and reconstructed gallows. The Old Jail Museum in Gonzales, Texas, is considered haunted due to its dark history of executions, violence, and the suffering of inmates who were once imprisoned there. Some prisoners reportedly died due to disease, mistreatment, or they took their own lives. Executions, including hangings, took place here, leaving behind lingering energy. Some legends suggest that a former sheriff or jailer still roams the halls, ensuring the inmates don't escape, even in the afterlife. Visitors and paranormal investigators have reported hearing disembodied voices, footsteps, and even the sound of jail doors slamming shut on their own. Several guests claim to have seen shadowy figures moving in the cells, especially in the areas where the worst criminals were kept. Reports of sudden temperature drops, whispers, and eerie noises, such as chains rattling, add to the jail's haunted reputation. During a paranormal investigation, a 17-year-old visitor entered a back cell alone. He noticed a handprint on the wall, and upon placing his hand over it, felt an unsettling sensation. Turning around, he encountered a small man with a scraggly beard, wearing a blue shirt and bearing neck bruises. Terrified, the young man fled and refused to re-enter the jail. His mother later explained that he was an empath who could see spirits. Albert Howard, the last person hanged in the jail in 1921, reportedly cursed the courthouse clock, proclaiming that its 4 faces would never show the same time if he were innocent. Since his execution, the clock has been plagued with synchronization issues, with its faces rarely displaying the same time. Various ghost hunting groups have documented evidence of paranormal activity at the Old Jail Museum. Reports include unexplained footsteps, whistles, and orbs. Some investigators have experienced ghostly activity within the old jail cells, further cementing the jail's haunted reputation. These stories contribute to the Old Jail Museum's reputation as a haunted location, attracting both history enthusiasts and paranormal investigators. Frank S. White was the superintendent of the Austin State Hospital in the early 1900s. Unlike the horror shows of the 19th century, where mental health care meant exorcisms, shackles, and a one-way ticket to social exile, White was impressed by the hospital's forward-thinking approach. Instead of treating patients like possessed demons, the asylum movement of the time actually tried helping them. Imagine that. Inspired, White decided to open his own facility, the White Sanitarium. His goal? To make mental health treatment feel less like a dungeon sentence and more like a peaceful retreat. He ditched the institutional feel and created a space where patients could roam freely, play cards, and read in a communal library, essentially turning the place into the world's most haunted country club. Unfortunately, the 20th century still had some interesting ideas about therapy. Sure, the White Sanitarium was progressive for its time, but that didn't mean it was all sunshine and healing. If you stepped out of line, you might find yourself on the receiving end of electroshock therapy, because nothing says mental wellness like controlled electrocution. And let's not forget lobotomies, the wildly misguided cure that involved drilling into people's skulls and turning them into human houseplants. Patients either ended up completely unresponsive, permanently dazed, or in many cases, taking their own lives. White himself only ran the sanitarium for 5 years before falling ill and retiring. One can only assume the stress of running an early 1900s asylum caught up with him. The building remained in operation until the 1950s, when Mother Nature herself decided enough was enough. A massive storm flooded the facility, shutting it down for good. Then came the ghosts. Once abandoned, the sanitarium quickly earned the nickname the Old Insane Asylum. It became a magnet for thrill seekers, ghost hunters, vandals, teenagers looking to prove they weren't afraid, but totally were. And let's just say, they didn't leave disappointed. Visitors report seeing the ghost of a woman in white gliding through the halls, peering out of windows like she's waiting for Amazon Prime to deliver her from the afterlife. Then there are the spectral patients, clearly unwell, dressed in hospital gowns, and very unhappy about their former treatments. Some say the spirits of those who suffered through lobotomies and electroshock therapy still roam the building, likely searching for the doctors who did them dirty. And then there's the smoking section. Apparently, the asylum let patients puff away indoors, because what's a little lung damage on top of a lobotomy? Today, visitors swear they see the glowing embers of ghostly cigarettes floating in the air, especially around an old card table, because nothing, not even death, can keep a committed gambler from his game. Oh, and despite having zero running water or electricity for over 50 years, people have reported lights flickering inside the building and water mysteriously flowing through the basement pipes. Because why wouldn't ghosts enjoy messing with the plumbing? In 2008, a group of ghost hunters and a local TV reporter decided to put the hauntings to the test. Armed with cameras, EVP recorders, and what I assume was a questionable level of confidence, they stepped inside the Old Insane Asylum. Within minutes, every single piece of their electronic equipment died. Spirits, it turns out, love draining batteries, probably for fun. The strongest paranormal activity was recorded in the library and living room because even ghosts need their entertainment. EVP readings picked up mysterious childlike voices, despite no kids being present, hushed adult conversations, and even the sound of an old bicycle horn honking in the library. Because apparently, even in the afterlife, some ghosts just want to clown around. The team also reported feelings of being watched, unexplained gusts of air, and an overwhelming sense of unease. Translation: if you visit, don't go alone. Today, the White Sanitarium has been renovated into an apartment building, meaning there's a good chance that some poor soul is trying to watch Netflix, while a ghostly patient in a hospital gown stares at them from the corner. Wichita Falls locals still whisper about the hauntings, and just about everyone has a story. So if you ever find yourself near the old asylum, keep your eyes peeled. You might just catch a glimpse of the woman in white, a levitating cigarette, or a group of ghosts playing a never-ending round of poker. Up next, we're heading to a place where luxury and the afterlife collide, the Driscoll Hotel in Austin. We're trading in the battlefields for something a little more high class. Built in 1886 by a cattle baron with more money than sense, or maybe just a really good accountant, this grand dame has seen it all. We're talking presidents, celebrities, and yes, even a few ghosts. Because what's a century-old hotel without a few permanent spectral guests? Now, every good haunted hotel needs a resident child ghost, and the Driscoll delivers with the tale of a little girl who met an untimely end. Legend has it she was the daughter of a senator who tragically fell to her death on the grand staircase. That's right, the grand staircase. Talk about a dramatic exit. These days, guests claim to hear the pitter-patter of tiny feet running through the halls, giggling echoing down the corridors. Some even report seeing a young girl in a white dress bouncing a ball at the foot of that infamous staircase. But don't be fooled by her playful demeanor, folks. This little ghost is said to be quite the prankster, moving objects, hiding keys, and generally causing mischief for the unsuspecting guests. But the ghostly activity doesn't stop there. Oh no, we're just getting warmed up. The Driscoll is also said to be haunted by the spirit of its founder, Colonel Jesse Driscoll. Now, this guy was a true Texas character, cattle baron, gambler, and apparently a real stickler for tradition, even in the afterlife. Guests and staff have reported seeing a distinguished gentleman in a cowboy hat wandering the halls, especially around the hotel's bar. Some say it's the Colonel, keeping a watchful eye on his beloved establishment, making sure everything is up to his standards. And let me tell you, if I were a ghost, I would also haunt a luxurious hotel. Speaking of the bar, it wouldn't be a proper haunted hotel bar without a few unexplained occurrences. Guests and bartenders alike have reported glasses mysteriously shattering, lights flickering, and in a truly bizarre twist, cigars vanishing into thin air. Now, I'm not one to judge a ghost's vices, but stealing cigars? That's just bad form, even for a spirit. Some say it's the Colonel, indulging in his love of a good smoke even in death. Others believe it's the work of a mischievous spirit, perhaps a former patron who enjoyed a good prank. Whatever the explanation, one thing's for sure. If you're planning on enjoying a drink at the Driscoll bar, keep a close eye on your stogies. But beyond the specific sightings and unexplained occurrences, there's a general feeling within the Driscoll that's hard to ignore. It's that unsettling sensation of being watched, of something unseen lurking just beyond your peripheral vision. Guests have reported feeling a sudden chill, a prickling sensation on the back of their necks, as if someone or something is standing just inches away. It's enough to make even the most skeptical guest wonder if they're truly alone in their room. And speaking of rooms, there's one particular suite in the Driscoll that's shrouded in more than its fair share of spooky lore. Room 525. This unassuming room was the site of not one, but two tragic deaths, both involving young brides on their honeymoons. Guests who've braved a night in room 525 have reported a wave of sadness washing over them upon entering, an oppressive feeling that lingers long after they've left. Some have even claimed to have seen apparitions of the brides, their faces etched with sorrow, their presence a chilling reminder of the tragedies that unfolded within those very walls. Despite its haunted reputation, the Driscoll Hotel remains a beloved Austin landmark. Guests from all over the world flock to its grand halls, eager to experience its luxurious accommodations and perhaps catch a glimpse of the supernatural. And who can blame them? There's something undeniably alluring about a hotel with a good ghost story, a place where history and the paranormal collide. So, the next time you're in Austin, book yourself a night at the Driscoll. Alright, so picture this. A crumbling building standing alone on the outskirts of a sleepy Texas town. That's Yorktown Memorial Hospital, and let me tell you, this place has seen some things. Built in the 1950s, it was supposed to be a beacon of hope, a place where the sick could find healing and comfort. But like a lot of good intentions, things went south. The hospital, it struggled. They faced staff shortages, financial woes, and whispers of something darker lurking in the corridors. It's almost like the building itself absorbed all that negativity, becoming a magnet for the unexplained. The hospital finally shut its doors in the 80s, unable to outrun its troubled past. But did the troubled past really leave? That's the million-dollar question. You see, ever since then, the place has been a hotbed of paranormal activity. People report seeing shadowy figures lurking in the abandoned rooms, hearing disembodied voices echoing through the empty halls. And it's not just your run-of-the-mill ghost stories. We're talking full-on apparitions, unexplained temperature drops, and this oppressive feeling that something or someone is watching your every move. It's enough to make even the biggest skeptic at least a little bit uneasy. One of the most common sightings at Yorktown is that of a young boy, maybe 8 or 9 years old, who's often seen peering out from behind windows or darting down hallways. Some say he's the spirit of a child who died during surgery, his laughter echoing through the halls long after he was gone. Then there's the story of a nurse, dressed in a crisp white uniform, who's said to still roam the halls, checking on invisible patients and straightening up already empty rooms. It's as if she's trapped in some kind of time warp, forever bound to her duties within those crumbling walls. Now let's talk about the operating room. This is where things get really interesting, or should I say terrifying. See, back in the day, Yorktown was known for its experimental procedures, some of which, let's just say, were a little ahead of their time. People whisper about unethical experiments, about patients who went in for routine procedures and never came out. It's the kind of stuff that fuels nightmares, the kind of history that seeps into the walls and stains the very air you breathe. Now we're moving on to another haunted hotel, and not just any hotel, mind you. This is the Baker Hotel, a towering monument to ambition, decay, and some seriously persistent spirits. Located in Mineral Wells, Texas, the Baker Hotel was once a beacon of luxury and glamour. Built in 1929, it attracted the rich and famous, all eager to experience its opulent amenities and healing mineral waters. The Baker Hotel is a rabbit hole of ghost stories, each more intriguing and unsettling than the last. Locals whisper of strange lights and sounds emanating from the abandoned building, of shadowy figures flitting through the shattered windows, and disembodied voices echoing through the empty corridors. Some believe these are the spirits of former guests and employees, unable or unwilling to leave the hotel they loved in life. Others claim the hotel sits on a portal to another realm, a thin spot where the veil between our world and the next is easily pierced. Whatever the reason, the Baker Hotel has earned its reputation as one of the most haunted places in Texas. Guests and trespassers alike have reported seeing a woman dressed in white wandering the halls, her face often obscured by shadow or a veil. Some say she's the ghost of a former guest who took her own life in the hotel, heartbroken over a lost love. Others believe she's the spirit of a nurse who worked in the hotel's clinic, still tending to the sick and injured long after her passing. Whoever she is, the lady in white is undoubtedly one of the Baker Hotel's most well-known and unsettling residents. But hey, it's not all spectral heartbreak and mournful cries at the Baker. If you're lucky, you might just encounter the hotel's resident prankster, the ghostly bellhop. Now, this mischievous spirit is said to enjoy playing tricks on guests, both living and spectral. He's been known to move objects around, make noises to startle people, and even whisper names in the dead of night. Some say he's the ghost of a former bellhop who loved his job so much that he just couldn't bring himself to leave, even in death. Now, if you're really looking for a ghostly encounter at the Baker Hotel, you might want to head straight to the 7th floor. This particular floor is said to be a hotbed of paranormal activity, with numerous reports of strange and unexplained occurrences. Guests have reported feeling cold spots, hearing disembodied voices, and even seeing full-bodied apparitions. Some believe that the 7th floor was once home to the hotel's most luxurious suites, and that the spirits of wealthy and influential guests still linger there, unwilling to relinquish their hold on the finer things in life. Others claim that the 7th floor is simply a crossroads, a place where the energy of the hotel is amplified, making it easier for spirits to manifest. Now, the Baker Hotel wasn't just known for its grand ballroom and luxurious suites. It also boasted a state-of-the-art swimming pool, a marvel of modern engineering for its time. But like everything else in the Baker, the pool has a dark side. Legend has it that a young woman drowned in the pool under mysterious circumstances. Some say it was a tragic accident, others whisper of foul play. Whatever the truth may be, the woman's spirit is said to haunt the pool to this day. Guests have reported seeing her ghostly form gliding through the murky water, her long hair fanning out around her like a shroud. But the Baker Hotel isn't just about solitary spirits wandering the halls. Oh no, this place is practically bursting at the seams with paranormal activity. Guests have reported seeing shadowy figures lurking in the corners of their vision, feeling unseen hands brushing against their skin, and hearing whispers and moans coming from the very walls themselves. Some believe these shadows are the remnants of past guests, their energy imprinted on the very fabric of the building. Well, that's it for this video, but don't get too comfortable just yet. Our journey through Texas's most haunted locations is far from over. Next time, we're venturing to a place where the living fear to tread, a place where darkness reigns and evil lingers. Until then, try to get some sleep. And if you hear a knock on your door, don't answer it. It might just be the ghostly bellhop looking for a